Okay, so now what we're going to look at is we're going to look at developing a media plan. Okay, now the concept of a media plan is we want to get our message out there and we want everyone to know what it is that we're doing. Okay, so we've usually got some sort of product, service or some sort of event that we want to make sure that we can make sure everyone's aware of. And really it comes down to proper media planning is about achieving a couple of things. And the first thing it's about achieving is the right message. So what is the message that needs to go out? Okay, what is it that we want to tell people? Okay, what do we want to make them aware of and what is it? The next part is who are the people? So who are the right people? Okay, so we want to get the right message to the right people. Okay, so targeted potential customers, consumers, whoever it happens to be that we're going after. Let's find out exactly who they are and what the best way to go out there and reach them is. And we want to make sure that it happens at the right time. Okay, so what we're trying to achieve there is we're trying to make sure that we're getting the messages out at a key time that's going to be beneficial to us. Either taking advantage of a cycle or taking advantage of a timing that's going to suit us to become beneficial. Okay, so we need to know when those times are and make sure we maximize it. The next thing is we need to make sure it's for the right money. Okay, because obviously money is a resource that is very finite. We don't have barrels of it lying around. So we need to make sure that when we're investing our money into our message, that we're actually investing it well, okay? Because what we want to do is maximize the effect that we have, and that's going to happen by smart spending to make sure that your message is actually quite effective. And more to the point, once we've sent the message out, we always go, well, you know, it's great to put it out there, but what we need to do is we need to get the right response. Okay, because we need to remember that always with communications, it's a two-way process, okay? We're putting a message out and then we're receiving some sort of response, whether it's feedback or whatever it happens to be, but the idea behind communication is message out and then some sort of action, response, message back. All right, so media planning is about getting the right message to the right people at the right time for the right money to achieve the right response for us. And obviously, in order to make sure that all those things happen, we need to really plan accordingly. So let's think about who does the media planning. And a lot of the time in a business, the media planning will come down to a couple of different types of people. And that might just be a media agency. Okay, so you might actually have agencies that you work with. Okay, they often get involved in these sort of things and can give advice and, you know, sort of talk through where it is. There's also advertising. Okay, looking to get very specific into your materials. You might have media buyers. Media buyers might be involved in that, and then also you might have an in-house marketing team. Okay, so it's worth your time to have a look at the difference between the media agencies and the advertising agencies to realize that these are people who are actually selling the service for you, that, you know, they're people you can retain, specialists. Media buyers, obviously that's another channel of information, but a lot of the stuff, I'll need to, spelling mistake. One of the other things we need to think about is making sure our in-house marketing team is also on top of that. That's if we have a media, you know, or an in-house marketing team available. Depending on the size of our organization, that could be one person or it could be a group of people. Or if we don't have anyone appointed to that sort of role, then we need to make sure that we're going out and tracking down one of these professionals or specialists that are really going to start to give us the right information. Okay, because what we don't want to end up doing is spending a whole lot of money chasing something that doesn't actually work out. All right, so what we need to start thinking, regardless of which way we're using, and even if you are using an external agency, you need to start thinking through the basic steps. And the first thing is who? Who are we targeting? Okay, so you will already have, by now I really hope, some idea of who it is that you're doing business with. Who do I want to target with this message? Who's my idealized customer? Who's my consumer, etc. So we start to think about who they are and have a bit of a map, you know, whether you're looking at the demographic, psychographic, geographic. Okay, start to get a bit of habit of behavior and a bit of a profile about who these people are. Because the next thing is we need to, once we know who, we need to think about what. And that's talking about what media channel. Okay, so how do I reach them? Okay, what's going to be their preferred way of getting this information that I can target? Okay, I also need to think about the next question, which is where. And this comes down to geography. Okay, I need to know where these people are, particularly if I'm looking at my media plan might involve doing things like brochures and handouts. So I need to know, well, if I'm targeting a local area like Pyrmont in Sydney, I need to know how many houses there are. Now, in Pyrmont in Sydney, there are approximately 5,600 dwellings. So that starts to inform exactly how many brochures I need to order and things like that. No point ending up going to a printer's and saying, well, I don't know how many of something I need, I don't know how many houses are in the area. So that comes down to really understanding the geography and what's taking place in that geography. Okay, I need to think about, well, when's this going to occur? So I can come up with a schedule. Okay, so when do I need to get things ready by? When do I need to start the production of the printed material or the design of the online content? When does it need to be uploaded? When does it need to be presented? When does it need to be in people's hands? Okay, so there's a whole lot of scheduling things that come into there. And then obviously I need to consider the how much. Okay, and this comes down to, all these things tie back down to how much do I have to spend, okay? Which to some degree might come back up here and start to drive these things, but anyway, that's a longer debate. At the end of the day, I need to know exactly how much money I've got to spend so I can work out how much I can invest in doing these things. But the key part is obviously find out, well, who am I targeting? If I have a smaller budget, I might need to think that through. I can't target to everybody. All right, that's one that I see a lot of times when I speak to people, who you're targeting, and there's a bit of an and an and a tap dance. Okay, we need to be able to get to a point of saying this is who we're targeting, the media channels that we're going to be utilizing. Okay, so there are a whole range of different channels that we can go down, so we need to find the one that's appropriate, so we're not trying to cover everything because that would be really expensive, and as we know, we're trying to go for the right money. And also the way those people want the information. Geography becomes a big one because we need to know how many houses we're targeting or what the lay of the land is, how spread out are these people, how do I get the message out there. Pyrmont, those 5,000 houses are in this little tiny itty bitty space, whereas if I went to Greater Western Sydney and went to an area that might also have 5,000 houses, they could be in this gigantic amount of footprint of land. Okay, so even getting things physically from place to place becomes an issue. Signposts, if they're spread out, hard for someone to see your poster on the side of a highway if everyone goes into these disparate areas. I need to think about my scheduling to make sure that I'm doing things at the right time. Okay, am I taking advantage of things that are going to happen? And I need to also consider just how much money have I got? All right, how much money do I have available to put into this process? All right, because that's going to come down to the delivery cost of making all these things happen. Okay, how much is it going to cost me to deliver these things on the ground and have a good understanding of the finances? All right, cool. Okay, so now we start to think about, well, what's the process of making all those things happen? Okay, so what we start to do is we have our general marketing. And then we start to think about, well, what's our objective? We start to then move across to, well, what are the strategies we're going to use? And then lastly, we need to think about, well, how we're going to plan that. Okay, so the planning document. So when we start talking about marketing, we start to talk about, well, what's our business model? What's our general marketing strategy? What's the industry trend? So what's going on in the bigger picture? Okay, we need to think about, well, what's our current sales? What's our objectives? We're doing a product launch. What is it that we're trying to do? Okay, what's happening and what are we trying to achieve? Then we start to come down to the media objective, which is really about translating those areas into actual deliverable objectives. Okay, is it to inform? Is it to make our customers come in? What is it that we want to do? So this is really about what's happening, okay, and what we're trying to achieve on the bigger picture. And then once we put that marketing out there, what do we want people to do? Okay, do we want them to come and try our product? Do we want them to buy the product? Do we want them to be informed about the product? What are we ultimately trying to achieve through that? And then I need to come up with some sort of strategy, which is about how do I actually put this into some sort of practice, which is about translating those objectives into a strategy to achieve that. So how am I going to get them interested? All right? What do I need to do to make them interested in what I'm effectively launching? And then start to make my tactical decisions around here with my planning, which starts to think about, well, what's the media channel they're going to use? So I want people, I'm going to have a new launch. There's a new trend that I'm taking advantage of. We want to go out there and make sure that we can run a successful business and attract people to us. So our media objective is to inform people about, well, this is the new product, and we fundamentally want you to know about it and to come and try it. So then I come up with a media strategy. Well, how are we going to achieve that? Well, I need to start thinking about, well, how do I turn it into a strategic plan or guideline? So we want X amount of customers, whatever it happens to be there, turns into the actual plan itself, which is, okay, so how am I going to advertise that? Is that going to be through our website? Is it going to be through social media? What's going to happen ultimately? All right, so that's really what we start to do there. So setting the media objective is talking about media objectives linked to the organizational strategy. Okay, so as we can actually say organization. Okay, so the media objectives link back to the organizational strategy and take into account our business objectives. So what are we trying to achieve as a business? The marketing objective, okay, so what do we want people to know? And our communications objective, okay, so how do we want to be heard and make sure that they can communicate back with us? We establish the media budget based on our financial resources available. Okay, so we need to think about how much money we've got to put towards this. And the media is a large part of any advertising campaign that we're going to run. Okay, so advertising costs can get quite expensive, but that's something we have to factor in there. The next part is we need to make sure that we're using our budget in the most cost-effective way. So once again, buying smart as much as possible. Don't just throw heaps of money. The reality is your media plan can turn in very quickly into some magic bucket with a hole in it, and you'll just keep shoveling money in there. We need to make sure that we're really checking what's available and what channels are available so that we can target things properly. All right, we need to then undertake a little bit of target audience analysis. So we need to start thinking about, well, who are the customers we're going to reach there, okay? What are their characteristics? What do we know about them? Once again, we're pulling out a lot of the demographic, psychographic, geographic information. We want to make sure that we're actually targeting the right audience, the people that we believe are going to be the users of our product, and make sure that we understand their behaviors. Now, the behaviors is a real key one because we want to understand what their media usage and consumption habits are. Okay, so once again, when they start accessing media, we need to be in that place at that time. There's no point running if I've got and we see them all the time. If you turn on the TV, there's funeral ads all the way through the middle of the day. Funeral insurance is the big one, and health insurance all day long. Now the reason, that it seems like a bit of a strange ad, but then you think, well, who's watching TV in the middle of the day? It tends to be the older people, tends to be all those people that might be needing funeral insurance. Okay, so the rest of us who have a day off and watch it, we're a bit curious as to why these ads are there, but they're targeting people who are going to be consuming that content during the day. Then at about 7 p.m, when everyone's watching the news, obviously you start to see different type of ads. Okay, so obviously people are targeting different times because they know that different people are accessing different media at different times of the day and making sure they're in front of those people. All right, so we need to make sure that we're being as efficient as possible. We're avoiding waste and preventing overexposure because that's the other one that people get into. They really just spam heaps of material into a space and it's really easy for the consumer to go, look, I've seen this ad 37,000 times now, I can't stand it and I want to turn it off. So there is a point of overexposure, and all that happens then is that we just get to a point where no one wants to do business with us. Okay, they've seen the ad too many times, they get fatigued about it. It was funny the first time they saw the joke, but the 37th time not so funny. Okay, so don't get overexposed. All right, so what we need to do is we need to make sure that we're analysing the market as well. And as part of our marketing analysis, we need to understand the position, okay, our position in the market and where our market generally is, okay? So we need to know where we want to be and where we want to place ourselves for our brand, okay? So that's going to be a key one there, to know exactly how we want to be interpreted in that market. All right, the other thing is we need to make sure that we understand the current trends of the industry. If we're in an industry where everyone advertises on, through a particular channel, we need to make sure that we likewise look sort of the same way. I know it is a little bit follow the herd to some degree, but we need to make sure that we're in the right place at the right time where people expect to see us. We can do other things, we can be a little bit off the wall, that's okay as well, but that takes a bit of planning about why we want to do that and what we want to achieve from doing that. Okay, so looking at where your competitors are and where they advertise, you need to take that into account. Okay, are we following them? Are we going to do something different to them? But we need to think about how that's going to be expected. What do our customers expect to see? Or more to the point, the people that we're trying to communicate with, what are they going to hear? All right, so we select the appropriate media vehicle to use. We make sure we develop the most effective schedule. So when we think about what the media plan is going to look like, so at what time are we doing what when, and then we need to think about a process of evaluating it to see what actually happened there. All right, so they're the key parts. Really think it through, take the time to think about what you're trying to achieve. What is the event or the catalyst or What are you going to frame your marketing around or your media plan around? What do you want people to do? Who are those people? When do they need the information? How do they expect to find it, or how will they usually obtain that information? And what do we want to happen as a result of that? What sort of feedback or communications? Once we know those things, we've got key dates, we've got key times, we make sure that we map that out, come up with some sort of plan, schedule or diary or calendar. We think about how much we're actually spending and what we're going to get back for that. There's no point spending a heap on marketing if really we're not going to get any return on that investment. Okay, we're not just going to throw money out there, and we don't want to throw money all over the place. We really need to think about where we want to spend it to get the most effect. Okay, because it's a very easy way to waste a heap of money and not really achieve anything measurable, particularly if you've made no effort to think about, well, how am I going to track information coming back? All right, we're going to have a look at some of those things as we go along, but that's really what we're trying to do here. All right, cool.